Welcome to Breaking Barriers, where we're exploring African American history and today's social justice issues. Change starts with awareness, so listen and learn. I'm your host, Stephanie, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Breaking Barriers. My name is Stephanie. I'm your host and your guide to this podcast, so let's get into it. So Breaking Barriers is about exploring untold and told stories of African American history and how they continue to shape contemporary social justice issues. So, as we go through this journey of forgotten history and known history, and we're going to see how it's continuing to impact us each and every day. So this podcast is really going to delve into the rich tapestry of African American experiences from struggles to slavery and segregation, and to also see our triumphs in the social justice era and just everything that we've come and from how far we've come and everything that we've done to get where we are today. We're not where we want to be, but we are better than where we were before, and each and every day we get better, especially having so much information out there nowadays in social media. It's really helping us move to where we need to be. So just through these discussions and interviews and stories that we're going to talk about, we're really just going to get deep into showing the resilience and the resistance and just the strength that you see through the Black community is in pushing forward each and every day to make the change that we want to see. So together, we're going to explore through this platform and many others what we can do to make some change and how we can stop history from continuing to repeat itself. So first, I want to talk about a little bit about myself and kind of why I wanted to start the podcast and all of that. So my name is Stephanie. I'm a social worker. I have my bachelor's, my master's in social work, and I'm super, super passionate about social justice and African American history. History has always been one of my favorite subjects. I don't know, just learning more and just learning about things that I just never knew about is just so impactful. Like it helps your growth so much. Like it just really opens your eyes to the world. And even in times that, you weren't born or, times you may not see. And it's just really important to know these things. So I have done a lot of personal research, which was really pushed me so much into this area. And, why I wanted to start this podcast, because I want other people to also learn these things. Over the years, I spent a lot of time just trying to teach myself things that I didn't know and just really, really learn deep into that, because it teaches you about things that are occurring nowadays, and it really just shapes who you are. And it's so important to me. So I really wanted to do this to help other people, even if you don't think that you want to know about this, like just exploring it and seeing if it's something that, may be interesting to you, because this may be, a good chunk of history, but it's also about the things that are happening today and how these things are affecting you, especially if you are a Black person. Like this really, really affects you and how you can change your own life and other people in the Black community each and every day. So like I said, I really love history. So, there's so many things that I'm going to cover in each of these episodes, but this is kind of my vision put together, just, being able to make some change for the people who need it, people who are looking for it, and just really educating people and creating a platform to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. So today, our topic we're going to cover is kind of police brutality and the history of police brutality and all the different areas of how you can see different aspects come into what leads to police brutality and how we got here and what we can kind of do. That's what this episode is going to be about. As far as the next episodes, it will follow some other area in history and, things that we're dealing with today. It could be about mental health in the Black community. It could be about maternal Black health, and it could be about the school to prison pipeline and, the new Jim Crow and just so many things. So yeah, that's kind of what the episodes are going to shape, like, looking at history, how we've gone through the years and where we are now and how we can make some change. Okay, so let's start with the topic. Let's start with slave patrol. So slave patrol started about the 1600s, and you're going to continue to see it all through until slavery is abolished. Slave patrol were people who were hired and expected to capture and control enslaved people. They were attempting to capture escaped enslaved people and any enslaved people who were kind of rebelling against their owners. And they were notorious for being very brutal and violent as far as treatment against African Americans, including physical abuse, torture, and even murder. And I know that a lot of people know about, how African Americans have been treated, since being enslaved and brought to America. But just seeing that these people were expected to control and capture enslaved people is just brutal. And the way that they were treated is just crazy. But over time, you will see how Slave Patrol kind of aligns with our nowadays police. It's kind of, Slave Patrol is the kind of foundation of our police nowadays, which is why so many people say, defund the police and just kind of abolish police and kind of restarting that platform, because it does start from a very, very ugly platform. It's very brutal and violent and racist foundation. And it's not a good foundation for us to be starting on. And in order for us to have a better police foundation now, we need to restart and find a new way to rebuild the police departments, because what we have now, it does not work. But let's continue through history. So then we're in the civil rights era, and police are really, really cracking down on civil rights protests and police demonstrations, and they're including excessive force, tear gas, and attack dogs. And like I said, very, very brutal. Even with peaceful protests, just very, very brutal. And you also see it through high-profile cases of police violence, such as like the beatings of the Freedom Riders and the attack of peaceful protests in Selma, Alabama. It's just, you see it everywhere. And it's so disheartening. It's just so scary to see that these people are trying to make a change, a peaceful change at that, and just being brutally attacked. And you even see it in civil rights leaders. They're out there leading protests and leading demonstrations and just speaking about the changes that need to be made, and they're being assassinated. We all know about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, but there's just so many people who were peacefully trying to make change and were just brutally killed or beaten or just harassed by the police. And we know, how Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were, assassinated by individuals that were tied to law enforcement or white supremacy groups. And it's hard to see those people who really were making so much change for us, being attacked and threatened and killed. And it's awful. It's awful. But now then you continue to move through history, and you get into anywhere from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you're seeing kind of an uprise to response to police brutality, where people are really pushing to make a change. And you have, in 1965, you have the Watt riots, and then you have the Rodney King riots in 1992, where people are pushing against in major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago and New York, where they have really big populations of Black people, and they're just seeing, their family members, their friends, and just people they're really close to that are being brutalized. And that's where they really start pushing to make some change and to just make something happen, make something shake, And then, you get to nowadays, you get to the 21st century, and you're still seeing the same thing over and over and over again. As they say, history repeats itself. And we got to stop it. There's something we have to do to make a change to stop it from repeating itself, because we have seen recently, we've seen many, many, many Black people being killed and brutalized and harassed, and it's hard. Like, we've seen it on a global scale with, when we went through COVID and there was the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And even if you go back further than that, we have Trayvon Martin. Like, there's just so many things. And now, we have the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement that came in response to Trayvon Martin and have pushed so much to help so many people, with Michael Brown and Eric Garner and Tamir Rice, and just so many people that have died at the hands of the police. And even in my own experience, I come from Connecticut, living there. I have seen people, who were brutalized by police. I've gone through my own experience of just being harassed by police and fearing for my life. And it's scary. It's awful having to live that way. Just, I have my own fear of the police. I've have been in situations that I would not like to be in ever again. And it's really traumatizing. Like, even now, being around police, like, anytime I see police car, even if I'm not doing anything wrong, like, my heart just skips a beat, and, my breathing changes, and it's really hard for me to kind of like regulate myself in those kind of situations, because it is very traumatizing. It's scary. It's hard to be calm in those type of situations, because you never know what's going to happen. We've seen so many situations where people weren't doing anything wrong, or they had the wrong person, or they went into the wrong apartment and someone ended up dying. And it's really awful. Like, I've seen so many cases recently. I don't remember the exact names, but I was scrolling on TikTok maybe about a month or two ago, and I saw a young woman talking about the death of her brother. And she is talking about what happened, and she goes on to speak on her brother's death, and her brother had called the police, and he was dealing with some mental health issues, and he called the police because he was having suicidal ideations, and he just really needed help in that moment. And he had called the police, and they had come over and they had asked him some questions, and, I had asked if he had any weapons in the home, and, all of that. And he had said yes, that he had a gun in the house. And after going through all the questions, they eventually did end up leaving. And he called them again because he was still dealing with the same situation. He was scared for his own life. He wasn't sure what to do. And he called the police because they are supposed to protect and serve. That is their job. We all know that is in their title. And they had gone over a second time, and he had the gun that time, and he did begin shooting at the police because he was screaming at them, "Kill me, kill me, kill me." He had already explained to them that he was having suicidal ideation. So for him, that was his way of, dying without killing himself. And so he began shooting at the police, and they did end up killing him. But there's no reason that should have gone down that way. The police were there and called because he was going through this issue. And where that comes in is the lack of training as far as police. They don't have mental health training. They're only expected to go through a certain amount of hours with training. And so if they had, mental health training, they would have, or even connected with a mental health team that were partnered with the police departments, they would be able to help and have that team come in and be like, hey, I have someone that's calling that's dealing with a mental health crisis. Because we've seen many mental health crises. We have seen situations where there were situations of police brutality where it was just a Black person going through a mental health crisis, but the police did not know how to handle it. So they resorted to violence because that was what they knew. And so that was one of those instances, He needed mental health help, and he did not get that. And he ended up dying at the hands of the police because of it, because they were not trained well. And they don't have skills in de-escalation. And they are just, taught to shoot. They fear for their life. That's it. And I understand that they fear for their life. But in situations like that, they need to learn skills of de-escalation and how to handle a mental health crisis so that we can avoid people being brutalized and killed and harmed and harassed. And even a more recent one that we have all seen is the murder of Roger Fortson. If you haven't heard of this story, I'm going to tell you about it. So a airman in Florida, his name is Roger Fortson, was murdered by a deputy. We're not sure of the deputy's name or his race or anything of that area. There is police footage out if you would like to see the video. I would just look it up. I'm going to give you a trigger warning. You do see Roger Fortson shot 6 times. So if that is not something that you believe you can handle, I would not advise watching it. But if you are, curious about the details of the case, you are able to look it up and kind of see everything that has happened. And it is an ongoing case, so you won't have all the details, but kind of follow the story as it goes on. But so what had happened was someone within Roger Fortson's building had called the police about a domestic violence issue or just an argument that had been going on. And someone on the first floor of the building had said, hey, yeah, there's, an argument going on this floor. And so the deputy had gone to the 3rd floor of that building and knocked on Roger's door. But when he had knocked the first time, he had stepped out of the view of the door. So you can't see anybody out because the people only go so far. So he stepped out of the view of the door. Didn't get a response, so stepped back in the view of the door, knocked on the door again and said, sheriff's office, and kind of, again, stepped over to the side. And he got back in front of the door right before Roger had opened the door. And Roger did open the door with one hand up, just like, what's going on. And he did, at his side and his other hand, he did have a legally registered gun. And he had it pointed down. He didn't have it pointed at the officer or anything. He just kind of opened the door as self-defense to, see who is slamming on his door, why, what's going on. At the time, he was on the phone with his girlfriend, just kind of relaxing at home. And so he did approach the door with a gun in his hand. And as the door, is opening, he sees Roger with the gun in his hand, and he just begins shooting. He doesn't say anything until after he has already shot him once. He tells him to drop the gun, drop the weapon. And as he shoots him, Roger falls to the ground, of course, because he was shot 6 times. And he continues to say, drop the gun. And Roger explains that he had already thrown the gun. It was gone. He did not have it anymore. And he says this multiple times. The girlfriend was still on the phone while this was all happening, and she had recorded it, but she didn't have a video because the phone was facing up towards the ceiling. So she has the full audio of it, but of course the audio and the visual recording is on the body cam. But that kind of the FaceTime video gives a different perspective, especially because the girlfriend has her own perspective of the situation, her recollection of what happened, and kind of her details as far as that. She has not said too much as far as what had happened, because of course it's a very, very traumatizing situation for her and for everybody involved, for the family and everybody. But that is a recent, occurrence of police brutality. If you watch the video, you will see this is not a situation where the police officer had even attempted de-escalation or said anything at all. Roger had identified him, trying to identify himself, but it was kind of all happened so fast. And you can see in the video that police officer already had his hand on his gun before he even gets into the door, before the door is even open. So you can see, like, as soon as the door opens, he already has his gun up and is ready to shoot. So it was very, very quick. And it's a hard video to watch. And I really, watched it because I wanted to be able to talk about it here, and kind of give all the details that I knew of. Like I said, it is ongoing, so there is a lot more details to come. But this is an instance where we're seeing police brutality and police unjustifiably murdering people in the Black community. And some people may not, believe that this is something that's just happening to the Black community. Like, yes, of course, There are people who, white people who die at the hands of police, but is such an alarming higher rate that black people are dying at the hands of police every day. Every day. It's scary leaving your house as a black person. You just don't know what's going to happen. You could be minding your own business and just anything could happen. You just wrong place, wrong time. Just it's really hard. And I think that talking about this stuff and really making people more aware of it is how we're going to make that change. If we never talk about it, nothing's going to change. But if we talk about it and we make a change and we put this at the forefront and talk about it, they can't help but make a change. They have to, because so many people are talking about it. And even if you're not someone who likes going to protests or just someone who likes to be, at the center of attention and pushing for change like this, there are small things that you can do. Voting is so important. Even locally, it's so important, because where you live, you have control over the things that happen where you live through voting. Do your research on people who are running for different roles in your local area, because there are going to be people who don't have great ideas for your area, who are going to try to keep doing things that aren't working. Look and do your research for people who are in your area that are trying to make change, and vote for those people and do whatever you can to support them, and, talk to other people about it, because some people just don't know. So talk to other people, and that encourages them to do their own research and be like, I'm actually really curious. And that encourages them to vote. Tell other people to vote, and just really put people out there. And when you see these cases of police brutality, call the police stations, call the local representatives, the governors, call these people, email them, whatever you have to do to get in contact with them, and tell them that you want a change made, because they can't ignore everybody. They have to make change, and we have to be the people to do it, whether that's through social media posts, whether that's through protests, or, talking just to your friends and family about this type of stuff. We need to talk about it. And we're seeing social media take such a big impact on things like this. And TikTok and Instagram, we're seeing things, even globally, international stuff that, we all know is going on, because we're able to spread that information. We know that this is something we can make a change about if we push it. We should not continue to let history impact us and mold the world that we see today, because what we saw in history is scary, and I don't ever want to continue seeing that again. We have made a lot of change. Of course, we have not, changed everything, but we have had strides, and we have earned so much. We have so much resilience, and we've done so much for our own communities. We just need to keep pushing and showing everybody that we have voices and we do want to make a change. Because I don't ever want to see a friend or a family member of mine die at the hands of police. Because I can't even imagine, and my heart goes out to all of those families, and I think about it all the time, because, like I said, this is something I'm so passionate about, and I pray for those families, and my social media is surrounded by social justice issues. Like, I follow so many people on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube that talk about this stuff, because it's something I do want to make an impact on. So just go out there, go on social media, do your research, and find the right people to talk to, or just even the right people to educate you on this. If this is something that you don't have a lot of information on, there are people out there who love this stuff, who are passionate about this, who want to see a change in the world. And you as one person can make a change. Even if you don't think you can, you impacting one person is making a change, because that person could go on to impact another person, and then they could impact a whole room of people, and then impact just laws, and so much change can be made. And we've seen laws being changed by people pushing from like high profile police brutality and just high profile cases in general overall. We've seen laws being made and changed because we're seeing the same thing over and over again. So just really pushing for that and believing that you can make a change, because believing that you can is the first step, and really, really push forward. But that's today's topic. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and follow us on our other pages. And by us, I mean me. In the future, we're definitely going to have some guests come on. I'm looking forward to being able to have these conversations with other people and just kind of getting their perspective and seeing what they think. And so if you're interested in the topic and you want to learn more and you want to be able to make change and advocate for others, please like and subscribe, and kind of see what we have coming in the next episodes. And yeah, thank you so much and have a great day.